All righty. Well, welcome everyone. This is Zach, Sawyer Paddles and Oars, and I'm very honored here today to be having an interview with Captain Chris Whitman from Captains for Clean Water. And what we're going to talk about today is really the campaign we have going on that really helps generate some revenue for Captains for Clean Water and their efforts in Southwest Florida, primarily with the relief of recovery needed for Hurricane Ian, and also what they're really doing in Southwest Florida. And maybe we're introducing some of you for the first time to Captains for Clean Water. So welcome you, Chris. If you could introduce yourself to the folks and just what you've been doing with Captains for Clean Water and really what Captains for Clean Water has been doing in the last several years.
Sure. Thank you, Zach, and appreciate the opportunity to join Sawyer Paddles and Oars for this interview. I am a fishing guide here in Southwest Florida and one of the co-founders of Captains for Clean Water. And, our organization's primary focus is Everglades restoration. We started this organization out of a need to get the fishing community and outdoor industry involved in trying to save our waters here in Florida. And do that and trying to save a national treasure, the Everglades, and which is, as you know, whether you're in Montana or Alaska or anywhere else in the country, like Bristol Bay and Montana are kind of bucket list for places to fish for those of us in Florida. The Everglades is one of those bucket list places for others, and so that's been our primary focus is trying to educate and create awareness on Everglades restoration in order to move support forward and get those projects done quicker to save the Everglades. However, as you know, earlier this year we were hit by Hurricane Ian, a very powerful hurricane that absolutely destroyed our coastal communities. And so we're fortunate we've been able to shift some of our staff resources and time and effort to help with those recovery efforts, and specifically to help support not only the fishing guide community, but to create opportunities for the guides to be employed in helping their community get back on their feet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's, out here in the West, we deal with forest fires quite a bit, and we've had some pretty violent forest fire seasons and just wildfire seasons. And for an example, here locally, when there's fires in Wilderness Canyon, that's just to the north of us, a lot of times, because that firefighting effort is really needed in this rugged terrain, they liaison with the outfitter community that gets shut down. They can't run their trips down in those wilderness canyons, but yep, by liaisoning with those outfitters, a lot of times those outfitters will provide transportation for fire crews. So you've got fire crews of 15, 20 people floating down the river in rubber rafts and then going out and hot shotting different areas. And so yeah, there's always been quite a bit of that. And I think that's what really helps kind of rebuild a lot of those relationships, and it really kind of keeps things moving. But and along on that note, we've, like I said, have experienced some very big forest fires and wildfires here in the West. We've had the big flooding that's happened in Montana. And so draw a little bit of a parallel to kind of the Hurricane Ian and just this long road of recovery that your community is on. Because, those of us who have just come out of a fire, we're in 2.5 years and continuing of rebuilding a couple small towns here in Southern Oregon. And so touch on that a little bit, because that's the thing I don't think people really understand. Like you said, it's in the limelight, it's in the news, but then after that goes away, after the first month, now is really when a lot of the real work starts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the most eye-catching thing is like right immediately after the storm and that destruction, and you get attention across the country about what has happened to that community, and you get a tremendous flush of support and resources and stuff in those initial phases. But in the reality, the biggest challenge that the communities face is the long term after a disaster, whether it's a flood. My parents live in Red Lodge, Montana, and they experience those flooding.
Yeah.
Still dealing with the aftermath of that, or fires, or in our case, hurricanes. The biggest challenge comes in the long term, in the months and years following the disaster. And so long after the news cameras have left and the attention has died down, you find the communities, and the people that are supported by those communities in a situation where, how do you continue? How do you continue to survive there for that gap of time until things can get back to normal? And it might be years before things are able to get back to normal. And so, what we have looked at is, how do we support the core of our organization, which is the fishing community and the tourism community and industry. And what we did is we came up with a program that has kind of three primary focuses, but the goal of all three of those focuses is to find ways to employ fishing guides who are impacted by the storm, who aren't able to run charters and do their normal line of work. And so it's three things. First is we're going to be hiring guides to do kind of mental health trips or relief trips to get first responders or citizens that have been impacted by the storm and need a mental break, to get them out and fish and get on the water, just get away from the day-to-day challenges of dealing with the storm.
Absolutely.
The second is physical debris cleanup. It's hiring guides to go out and captain vessels to clean up the debris out of the mangroves, out of the estuary. And that's the scale of that is it's years.
Constant battle. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. The third, which is really very closely tied to our normal mission of our organization, which is water quality, is to employ guides to work with the state agencies, FWC, and universities to go up, bring scientists out and test water throughout the next year. Take water samples, testing water for pollutants, but also for algae blooms, red tide blooms. What we see is, after a big storm event like this, you have a tremendous amount of nutrients and pollution that are now in the water, and that is food for red tide or Carenia brevis, and that leads to massive fish kills. And so it's very important to be able to collect data on where those blooms are, because the way that our waters are managed and what Captains for Clean Water works on normally is Everglades restoration and how the water within the system is managed. And typically, when we get Lake Okeechobee in the center of the state is very high, the Army Corps of Engineers would release that water to our coast right here.
Right.
There to do that when there is an active red tide bloom, it can basically introduce more food available to that bloom and make the situation a lot worse. So employing guides to test water, to be able to monitor what the status is of those blooms, and be able to then take that data and help agencies make better decisions on how they manage our water to not make an already bad situation worse, is really important work. And I think that's something that is a great way to employ these guides and to plug them into helping have an impact directly to our water quality.
Absolutely. And that's why, really the artisan program, the artisan oar program has always been an oar with a cause. It pretty much stemmed from the initial artist that started the program up with me was Link Jackson out of Boise. And he still has several artisan series that are live with us. And we've kind of had the artisan series kind of move from one cause to another, and started out with Savour Wild Salmon, and now it's with Pacific Rivers. And during that time period of COVID, it shifted over to the Guide Relief Fund, and that program is off and running. And we still have parts of the artisan series that actually dedicate funding to that specific program. And so to launch this next leg of an artisan series with Ed Anderson and Ty Halleck, of something that really just kind of ties into what Captains for Clean Water are doing and what Sawyer is doing. Is it kind of like we've just kind of we're weaving that guide thread, you know, because really, like you said, the bucket list of guides in Florida and guides in Montana or guides in Oregon or guides in Washington probably has other locations of where those folks are on it. And so really, I think it's one of those things that people can relate with, and really just kind of connects them to what's going on. And yeah, you know, I mean, a lot of people probably didn't know where Talent, Oregon was until we had the devastating Alameda fire. And, you know, that was some unfortunate coverage, but we were covered by the New York Times, you know, and like you said, yes, once the media is gone, the recovery really starts. And so, yeah, you know, I mean, it's like many folks didn't really probably know what Captains for Clean Water did initially, but probably had Florida, you know, Southwest Florida on their bucket list. If they're a sports angler, you know, I'm sure that they've wanted to do something like that. And so if we can bring a little attention to that and give people an opportunity to make some donations and then continue contributing to the artisan program. And you know, the artisan program is fairly unique because we kind of approach it as we make money both ways, where people buy the oars just because they look cool, and then other people buy the oars because they know part of the proceeds of that purchase is going to go towards their cause. But either way, you know, we build the oars that people want, and by putting some of that custom artwork on it, really helps us kind of dedicate it into those different realms. So we're really happy to be putting this program together, and we hope that folks, you know, this has raised some interest with you, and you know, we would like to throw it out there that we'd like folks to challenge each other to make a donation to Captains for Clean Water. You can do that on either one of our websites, and by doing that initial act of just making a donation, anywhere from $10 to $100, will put you in a drawing for a giveaway of a one-of-a-kind Sawyer Square tops of your choice, whatever blade profile you want, whatever size you want, the oars that are going to make your boat setup just right for you. So it's a very, very unique situation, and very great opportunity for folks to get involved and to help out the folks here for Captains for Clean Water, and dig in and find out a little bit about what's going on down in Southwest Florida, because they're in the long haul for a long recovery, and hopefully we can go down to Southwest Florida and all get together and do a fishing trip one of these days.
Yeah, that would be great. And Zach, I mean, you said it right. It's the community as anglers, no matter where they're at in the country or in the world for that matter, we're the best ones to support each other, because we are connected to and understand why we do what we do in the first place. And that shows anytime there's a disaster, you know, it brings out the best in people, and it shows the connection. You know, my friend Hillary Hutchinson, right after the storm, traveled down here and was literally in houses helping to gut people's houses and try to provide some relief. I know, you know, she uses your guys' stuff, and is it's just such a great example of someone who is thousands of miles away, but has a connection to her fishing family and saw a need and wanted to come plug in. And I do want to thank Hillary for coming down and doing that, as well as many others that did the same. And, you know, one of the things that we realize for our normal mission at Captains for Clean Water is that the success of saving the Everglades is dependent on people outside of the Everglades. And that's the case for recovery from this storm. It's the case for, you know, issues like Safe Bristol Bay. Any of these challenges, whether you're talking about something in Alaska or something in Florida, the success of the future of those places depends on the people in between those places and outside of those places. And so we really are fortunate to have the support of the angling community around the country. And this is one of those times when when our community really needs that support desperately. It's we've been impacted heavily. It's going to be an impact that takes a long time to recover from. But I know that we will recover, and we're really grateful for your support, for the community's support, and just really want to say thank you to everybody. And if they want more information about specifically how the funds for the Hurricane Ian Relief Fund will be used, that is on our website. We've just updated it, but we are employing the guide community that's been impacted to give them temporary work and let them help their community dig out of this situation. So again, want to just thank everybody for the opportunity.
Absolutely, and we'll put some live links in the bar below the video here, and you'll be able to link that if you want more information on that. But you touched on one thing that I'd like to kind of just wrap with, is that, you know, we're really just connecting different fishing communities, and with those fishing communities, we all have huge networks. And so what we're really looking at doing with this program is we're trying to be the conduit for the cross-pollination of fishing community networks to get in and support each other. Because every fishing community and every river system community network has a bunch of big supporters in that network. And so if we can get some of that cross-pollination of networks, that's what really helps build the communities up from the grassroots, and that's real important for all of us, for everything that we do, and to be able to live the lives we like to do and be in the outdoors and get out on the water and spend some time chasing some fish.
Yeah, man, you're right. It's not only is that cross-pollination, as you say, important not only for the funding, financial support of like these initiatives, but really the awareness of
absolutely
issues that communities are dealing with, whether it's things out west, in the middle of the state, in the north, Belize, you name it. The level of awareness that it can bring when the angling community looks outside of their backyard is huge. And that's the nature of grassroots, and I think that is why our efforts and our organization has been successful in our efforts with Everglades restoration to date, is that grassroots approach by others around the world. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everyone for checking this out. Please click on the links below if you would like some more information, and we will make it very easy for you to get on our websites and make a donation to Captains for Clean Water, so you get a chance to win that giveaway of one-of-a-kind oars. And then maybe down the road, you maybe will want to buy a pair of artisan oars that have a redfish artwork from Ty Halleck or tarpon artwork from Ed Anderson. So those will be coming to you in 2023, and this program will keep continuing on. So thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks Captain Chris for coming on with me to do this interview. And everybody out there, remember, we're coming into the holidays, so let's shop local, be patient, be kind, and we'll see you on the river.